Welcome back to my weekly transit report. Today is Monday, June 27th, and we actually have two transits to talk about this week. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. The transit that we're currently in started last Saturday on June 25th. That is when the sun moved into the gate 52 and the earth moved into the gate 58. Both of these are on the root center, and both of them are in the logic circuit or the pattern circuit in quantum human design. This circuit is left brain energy. So the energy comes in through the left brain, crosses over to the right-hand side of the body, comes down the right-hand side of the body into the root, and then back up through the central channel. So this energy is down in the root, and we're grounding in the gate 58, which in traditional human design is known as joy, and in quantum human design is known as the joy of mastery. So they're very similar, just a little bit different. I always like to think of the joy of the 58, of the joy that happens when patterns come back into alignment, because the mate of the gate 58 is the gate 18, which in traditional human design is the gate of correction or the gate of realignment, I believe it is in quantum human design. But the idea here is that we're being able to see patterns, feel patterns, know when the pattern is off, when it's not working, and then how do we realign it? And then when we do that, there's a joy that happens with that. Scientific inquiry, Western scientific inquiry, lives in this circuit. And so there is this sense when we're at what I consider the highest expression of scientific inquiry, which begins with curiosity. We're looking at something in the natural world. We're like, I wonder what's going on there. And we come up with a hypothesis, an idea about what we think is happening. And then we test it and we see if we can convince ourselves that it's true. And so that's part of what this is being able to look at the patterns, which always begin in the natural world, right? And then we see how that cycle is working, what those patterns are, and are they in alignment or not? And so we get joy when we're able to master the ability to see patterns and to bring them into alignment when they are out of alignment. Now, when I talk about patterns in this context, I'm not talking so much about our psychological patterns, our energetic patterns that sometimes you probably hear me talk about, where I'm going, oh, you're in pattern, which is really where we're in a subconscious loop and we're recreating a response to a situation that happened many, many years ago. Okay, so that's a pattern that we usually like to break, and we use like the gate 51 or even the gate 39, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, to break that pattern, because we want a pattern interrupt when we're just kind of subconsciously moving in something which is referencing past time. It's not even true. It's not even present time, right? And we're not able to really be in the now and assessing what's happening. So it's not that kind of a pattern. Although there is a gift in this pattern circuit of being able to see those subconscious patterns also. I know that I tap into my gate 48, for example, which is the gate of wisdom, which is in this circuit, to help me when I'm working with clients or even looking at myself to see what patterns are happening, right? And in that case, the action step is then to decide, is this a pattern that I want to continue, or is this a pattern that I want to disrupt and either change it or discard it altogether? So there is a use for this ability to see patterns also in working with subconscious patterns. So the earth is lighting up this joy of mastery, this joy in the root center. So let's talk about the root center for a minute. So the root is all the way down at the bottom of the chart. It's that brown square. And it is the center that connects us to the earth. It is like the root chakra in that way. It's not the same as the root chakra. Always remember the human design centers are different than the chakras. But it is similar in the sense that it is down at the bottom of the pelvis, is where the tailbone is. It's connected to the adrenal glands, and it is a place where we do get adrenaline. Okay, that is helping to build the system. This is part of why the root center is a motor And so it is there, and it is helping to connect and really get energy moving, because it is connected both to the spleen and to the emotional solar plexus and also to the sacral. So there's a lot of energy that's happening down in that bottom part of the body, and the bottom part of the energy field. And so this joy is something that can actually bring us some adrenaline in the good sense, right? In the sense of we get exuberant, we get excited when we see that something is aligned, and we can feel the upliftment that comes when we're in alignment, right? So that can help stimulate that joy and that energy that's down there in the root center. Now, the 52, which is also on the root center, also in the logic circuit, has a very different quality, because in traditional human design, it's known as stillness, and in quantum human design, it's known as perspective. And its mate is the 9, which is on the sacral, and that is known as focus. So we've got this really kind of honing in kind of an energy, right? It's quiet, and we're honing in, and that is giving us perspective. Because anytime that we're still and we're able to really observe, we will gain more perspective. It's when we're kind of moving around and not noticing, any particular thing, or just moving in a direction, right, that we can get a little myopic in our perspective. And the thing is, because this is a left brain energy, it's going to be more focused anyway, because that's the nature of left brain energy, is to be more focused, whereas right brain energy is more peripheral, it's more expanded, it's more spatial, whereas left brain energy is more sagittal. This is the sagittal plane, and more focused. So this is a place where that energy really gets focused in, and it becomes still, and that gives us perspective. And that's what enables us to focus, because that energy is then going to go into the 9, into the sacral, and it's going to be a really focused energy. So while we're in this transit, my suggestion to you is to be looking at the patterns in your life, and to be sussing out which ones are really working for you and which ones are not. Like if you have a regular time when you get up, a regular time when you eat, a regular time when you exercise, when you go outside, and that sort of thing, that can be a pattern that can really help you. Okay, especially if you have the gate 5 defined in your chart. And so that's aligning with the cycles of nature. The cycles of nature are a great pattern for us to be aligning with. So some patterns are really helpful for us, like knowing, I have to brush my teeth before I go to bed. That's a pattern in my life. I'm going to hold on to that one. Or a pattern of knowing where we're going when we're driving somewhere, so we don't have to work so hard to know how to get to the grocery store. But it's a problem when we're stuck in a pattern. We keep thinking the same thing over again, or keep reacting to things the same way. And we realize that's not really serving me. So take a little time, write in your journal, check out what kind of patterns you're living inside of right now, and make a decision about which ones are really helping you and which ones you might want to tweak or get rid of altogether. You can do that as you gain more perspective and a kind of stillness. That's going to help you to be able to observe and suss out what's really working for you and what's not. Then on Friday, July 1st, we're going to have a shift. Now we're going to stay in the root center, interestingly enough, but we're going to switch circuits. So we're going to go from the left brain logic circuit into the knowing circuit. Of course, my favorite circuit, as you probably know by now. The sun is going to move into the gate 39, and the earth is going to move into gate 38. These two energies come off of the root center, okay? And we actually have a lot of activations going on in the knowing circuit again. So this is going to be a potent transit for our intuition and for our ability to tap into superconsciousness, and also to really be standing behind what we believe in. Because the 38, which is where the earth is, we're going to be grounding ourselves in that 38. So in traditional human design, it was known as the fighter, and colloquially known as the Martin Luther King gate, because it was the energy for us to know what's worth fighting for. Now it's been renamed visionary, or the visionary leader in quantum human design. So it's the same idea of really tuning into what are our values, what are our priorities, what do we really care about, what are we willing to put a stake in the ground about, that we say, this is worth fighting for. And I have to say, given what's going on in our world today, we have many opportunities to be putting our stake in the ground about what we believe in and what is worth fighting for. And so as we move into this transit, you can really ground yourself in that. Now, the earth is there, but it's also the root, and the root is our connection to the earth. And that root is a very grounding kind of an energy. This is a really good time to be tuning into yourself, to be seeing about how you're showing up in your life, the choices that you're making, and are they in alignment with what you care most about, what matters most to you, what your greatest priorities are. We are in a super dynamic, super challenging, unstable time, right? I mean, we have been, and honestly, everybody wants it to settle down. I don't think it's going to. But what we can do is get really clear and strong on the inside so that as the outer world feels chaotic or crazy, that we have this inner metal that enables us to be resilient, to be clear, to be focused, and to be taking action in the world in alignment with what matters most to us. That's the most important thing that we can do. It's not focusing on the insanity that we might be seeing going on in the outer world. It's more about what is it that we can do to grow ourselves, to be the people who can meet the big challenges that we're facing in our world today, which is the purpose of my book on feminine sovereignty, which you'll be hearing more about before too long. So this is a great opportunity for you to be doing that and to be thinking about the visionary leaders who you've admired during the course of your life, and to think about what is it that they did in their lives that you admire, and how can that inspire you to show up in a different level in your life today. Sometimes we just need to, turn off the TV and make a different choice and do something different in the world. Then we also have support from where the sun is. So the sun is in the 39, and the 39 in traditional human design is provocation, provoking, and in quantum human design is recalibration. I think the idea of recalibration comes in because we want in the higher expression of provocation, and both of these gates defined in my chart, I know them rather well. And when I didn't understand this better, I found myself sometimes being provocative without necessarily fully intending to. I also have the gate 51, so that probably has something to do with it. So the way that I like to think about this is that, again, if we're in patterns that are not working, if we're doing things out of our conditioning, out of our programming, out of our fear, out of our trauma, right? If we're acting out of all of those things, we want to be able to recalibrate that pattern. And sometimes we have to be a little provocative with it, because to do a pattern interrupt, we have to do something that kind of shakes things up, right? Pattern interrupts are usually a little like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't realize that it was working that way, right? And so the ability in its highest expression, this 39 has the ability to kind of do that pattern interrupt, but not in a way that either just makes somebody angry or hurts them, which would be the shadow aspect, right? When you're using that provocation to gain control over a person or over a situation, and you're using the power of that energy to do that, and you're trying to control or manipulate a person or a situation, right? That's the shadow aspect of the 39. So we want to be expressing the most empowered and most awakened expression of that 39, and also of the 38. Because if you think about the 38, it can go awry also, because knowing what's worth fighting for, unfortunately, I imagine that Vladimir Putin feels like he's fighting for what he thinks is worth fighting for also, right? So we don't want it to go in that direction, which is the manipulative, controlling, power over, trying to get things to go your own way, right? Basically. Using power over strategies. So we don't want to do that either. So we're really being called during this transit, that again starts on Friday, the 1st, to be looking at how can we be using these two really powerful energies and directing them in the way that is going to help inspire, stimulate, provoke in a good way, help us to be standing up for what we believe in, for what we think is worth fighting for, And I would always claim that this is nonviolent fighting, right? Which is why it's the Martin Luther King gate. Okay. It's not the Stalin gate or something like that, right? It's the nonviolent fighting. Okay. It's the spiritual warrior that we're calling on here. And I think that, I don't know if there's ever been a better time for us to be stepping into our feminine sovereignty and our spiritual warrior aspect, and to be standing up. And we will have gained some perspective from having the sun in the 52 right before that, and also some joy and stimulation that's come from that place. And then we can pour all of that into the next transit, where we're going to go ahead, put that stake in the ground. It's an interesting shift also from the logic circuit, which is more logical, rational, reasonable, left-brained, to the knowing circuit, which is none of those things, right? Which is where we're really plugged in and really inspired by superconsciousness. And oftentimes when we think of some of the great political leaders that we have admired, people like Gandhi or Martin Luther King, they are also spiritually inspired as well. Right? So it's also thinking about how can we be receiving guidance for what it is that we believe is worth fighting for, and where we want to be stimulating us into breaking patterns and creating new patterns that are going to serve really the highest good, to be more equitable, to be able to regenerate our planet, to regenerate our economic structures, and also our political structures. Okay, so it's a big time right now. Just know I'm here, holding you with my heart and my hands on your back, and let's go do this. Okay, many blessings, much love. Bye for now.